It's July 24th, 2024, and Christopher Pervvis has just stepped off a long flight at Edinburgh Airport. He arrived from Mexico City via Paris. Nothing seems unusual, as he's seen as just another traveller. However, he was carrying a plastic bag with 4 brightly coloured sombreros. At first glance, he looks like a typical tourist just returning from holiday, but Christopher, an ordinary bloke from Merton, County Durham, is anything but ordinary on this day. His face doesn't show it, but he has a £5,000 debt that he's struggling to pay off. And the way he agreed to settle the debt was by smuggling nearly £6 million worth of cocaine into the UK. Trying to escape the debt will land him in even more trouble. Pervvis wasn't picked at random to make this drug run. He was chosen because he was vulnerable and accepted the job because he was desperate for a way out. He was promised £20,000 to carry the drugs. That's a lot of money for someone with no criminal history, but it wasn't worth the risk. Without asking any questions, he took on the job with no support. He was just making the run on his own. To them, he was disposable, and that's exactly how they treated him. The smuggling route was chosen carefully, long enough to avoid suspicion, but common enough for him to blend in. He flew out of Mexico City, one of the world's busiest drug trafficking cities, and landed in Paris for a brief layover. From there, he boarded a connecting flight straight to Edinburgh. Taking this route is a tactic smugglers often use to disguise the origin of illegal cargo. By the time Christopher arrived in the UK, he might appear to customs officers as just another man travelling from Paris within Europe, not someone who had just come from Mexico City. That illusion made the drug run feel safer to him. But the customs officers were paying attention. Pervvis took a big risk. Carrying the oversized and bright sombreros was a calculated distraction, meant to make him look like nothing but a goofy tourist. The idea was simple. If the officers saw the hats, it might make them overlook everything else. It was a bold move, playing on a stereotype to avoid suspicion. But instead of deflecting attention, the sombreros did the opposite. They looked too staged, too obvious. This ultimately triggered the search and exposed his plan. After he went through the customs passport check, he was unknowingly flagged. He entered the nothing to declare lane at the airport, likely thinking the hardest part was over. Whether it was a tip-off, his travel route, or just something about his demeanour, he didn't get far. Officers stopped him for a routine check, and in that moment everything unravelled. He wasn't aggressive or evasive, but the attempt to appear goofy or too casual raised suspicions. With 2 suitcases and a bag of sombreros, he was taken aside. What started as a quick customs check would soon become an international drugs smuggling case. Here's the thing though, Pervvis wasn't travelling alone. Alongside him was another man, who remains unnamed and carried a separate suitcase. They looked like friends returning from a holiday, but behind the facade there were lots of questions. Were they both involved, or was one of them being used without knowing? What was really clear is that both suitcases contained cocaine. Pervvis carried his own suitcase, along with the sombreros, while his mate carried his own luggage, also filled with sealed packages of cocaine. Whether it was loyalty, pressure, or guilt, Pervvis immediately claimed full responsibility for everything, even saying he packed both suitcases himself, which made the situation a bit more complicated for the authorities. The moment officers began searching his luggage, the mood shifted. The suitcase felt unusually heavy. Inside, they found several tightly wrapped packages, neatly sealed, suspiciously uniform, and not hidden at all. They were sitting in plain sight as the officers opened the luggage. One of the packages was opened on the spot, revealing a thick coating of mustard. This was a failed attempt to mask the scent from drug detection dogs, but instead of fooling anyone, it only confirmed what officers already suspected. Then came the second suitcase, carried by his unnamed travel companion. Same story. Identical, vacuum-sealed bricks, also coated in mustard. 7 of them in total, combined with the 8 found in Christopher's suitcase. Authorities uncovered 15 packages of cocaine. Each weighed around 3 kilos. This wasn't personal use. This was wholesale. The street value was estimated at £5.6 million. With a purity of 52%, dangerously high. One of the largest cocaine seizures ever at a Scottish airport, sitting right there in the open. The psychological collapse happened fast. As he was being arrested, Christopher muttered something that said it all. Yeah, alright, I understand. I'm useless. And effing stupid. I'm Ed anyway. It was a man watching his life fall apart in real time. In those few words, there was no bravado, just defeat. He knew what he was carrying. He knew the weight of it wasn't just physical. 10 years minimum, a record that would follow him for life. One trip meant to solve his problems, had only created far bigger ones, and in that moment he realised just how deep in he was. The mustard wasn't random, it was strategy. Drug traffickers often smear strong-smelling substances like mustard, coffee grounds, or pepper on packages to confuse sniffer dogs. In Christopher's case, several of the cocaine bricks were coated in mustard in a sloppy attempt to hide the scent. But customs officers had seen it all before. It's an outdated trick, and with modern detection methods, it barely slows the dogs down. Instead of masking the drugs, it added another layer of suspicion. What should have been clever concealment only confirmed intent and proved that whoever packed those bags knew exactly what they were doing. By the time the drugs were discovered, it was already too late for Christopher. What he didn't know was that law enforcement had been building a case behind the scenes. The National Crime Agency and Police Scotland's organised crime partnership were already investigating high-volume cocaine smuggling through UK airports. His name and travel pattern may have been flagged. Whether he was under active surveillance or simply matched a routine customs profile didn't matter anymore. The bust wasn't luck, it was the result of a system designed to stop people like him before the drugs ever hit the streets. Christopher Pervvis stood before the High Court in Edinburgh on April 16, 2025. This was the moment everything caught up with him. Lord Somers, the judge overseeing the case, noted that Pervvis was a first-time offender and had shown genuine remorse, but that didn't soften the blow. He was caught with over 45 kilos of cocaine, an amount that couldn't be brushed aside. The court understood he was acting as a courier to pay off a drug debt, but the scale of the crime meant it had to be taken seriously. A 15-year sentence was on the table, but because he pleaded guilty early, it was knocked down to 10. His sentence officially started on the day he was arrested, July the 24th, 2024. The second man arrested with Pervvis denied everything. He pleaded not guilty and is set to face trial on November 10th, 2025, also at the High Court in Edinburgh. That trial will decide if he played a part or walks free. This wasn't just any courtroom. The High Court in Edinburgh handles Scotland's most serious criminal cases, and Lord Somers didn't take this one lightly. The evidence was clear. Huge volume, high purity, and a courier who knew what he was carrying. The 10-year sentence sent a message. This wasn't just about punishing one man. It was about drawing a line in the sand. The investigation that brought Pervvis down wasn't random either. It was led by the National Crime Agency and Police Scotland's organised crime partnership. Their joint work made the bust possible. It showed how agencies working together could stop major drug shipments before they reached the streets. Pervis's case is a hard reminder of what drug trafficking leads to: a failed smuggling job, a prison cell, and a clear warning. The system is watching and the consequences are real. And just like that, one man's desperate attempt to erase a £5,000 debt turned into a decade behind bars. Christopher Pervvis thought he could fly under the radar, just another face in the airport crowd, sombreros in hand, mustard-covered packages stashed in a suitcase. But behind that tourist disguise was a £6 million drug run, and what he didn't know was that the system was already watching. From the moment he stepped off the plane, the clock was ticking. And when the bags were opened, everything unravelled, fast. No second chances, no way out. A single decision cost him 10 years of freedom and marked his name in one of Scotland's biggest drug busts. This isn't just about one man, it's about the hidden world of smuggling, the pressure of debt, and the brutal reality that crime doesn't pay. If you're into real stories like this, where the stakes are high, the outcomes are real, and the lessons hit hard, subscribe to True Gangster Stories. We dive deep into the untold side of organised crime, mules, gangs, and the lawmen who bring them down. New episodes every week. Hit that subscribe button and don't miss what's coming next, because in this world, the smallest mistakes can cost everything.